Charlie Kirk's the founder and CEO of Turning Point USA and the author of the new book, The College Scam. So, Charlie, do you accept the View's apology?
I mean, regardless of whether or not I accept it, the question is, do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here. They went after our 5,000 students at our event there of high school and college kids. And look, I get attacked all the time. People say false things. I'm a public figure. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds that travel from across the country that then have to live for the rest of their life with a shadow over them because someone at ABC says that they might be linked to neo.
Sunny Hostin just had a complete meltdown on national TV after Charlie Kirk delivered a humiliation so sharp that even the View's audience couldn't decide whether to clap or call for help. In a debate that went from tense to tragic, Hostin's talking points shattered faster than a cheap wine glass. Kirk didn't just win, he steamrolled her, leaving Hostin visibly shaken and scrambling for a comeback. This wasn't a conversation, it was a televised takedown.
It was a televised takedown.
Her disgusting, gross elitism and her complete out-of-touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated.
What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding. You have Latino men, actually, voting more for him. And you have, and black men was not the story. We're not the story here because they voted almost 80% for the vice president.
Right. Just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever they teach.
There are meltdowns, and then there are televised implosions so raw and unfiltered they practically deserve a documentary and a candlelight vigil. Sunny Hostin's latest on-air unraveling was the latter, a spectacle so disastrously elegant and startlingly spontaneous, it belongs in the Smithsonian under the category when talk shows go wrong.
Look, what did it take for us to get to the point of an apology? We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk away with it. And the reason they felt they needed to do that, Jesse, is because if they told their audience the truth, that when gas is the most expensive it's been, flights are super expensive, that 5,000 kids decided to spend a weekend in summer traveling across the country to go hear from conservative speakers, maybe the audience of The View would think twice about all of their ideas. That's why they felt so compelled to try to smear our wonderful summit this last week.
Now, to be fair, Sunny wasn't ambushed. There were no confrontational interviews, no surprise walk-ins, no shouting matches, just the reverberation of Charlie Kirk's digital sledgehammer crashing across the airwaves like a wrecking ball fueled by Red Bull and algorithm juice. He didn't even need to be in the same time zone to deliver the blow.
White privilege is a racist myth that is rooted in bigotry, trying to classify people based on their skin color. If you are a racist, you have something to apologize for. If you're a white person who is not a racist, you have nothing to apologize for. And anyone who makes you apologize just based on the color of their skin, they're the racist and you're not. It's that simple.
Here's the modern media genius.
This is modern media strategy at its peak. Charlie Kirk launched a pre-packaged political grenade straight from his own platform. A slick, overproduced, swagger-filled video that tore through Sunny Hostin's entire ideology like it was past due on rent. Facts were optional. Subtlety was non-existent. Dramatic infographics, slow zooms, and righteous background music. Every box was ticked. It wasn't a critique. It was a demolition. Kirk didn't just go for the jugular. He restructured the entire circulatory system and served it back with a side of smug fries. And the internet devoured every second of it.
This Turning Point conference, who are in the front of out there in front of the conference with anti-Semitic slurs, and
I think it's important that every single person that attended that Turning Point, every Republican speak up against the swastikas, against the see flags that were waved.
You let them in.
President, open your
You
mouth.
let them in and you knew what they were.
Right.
So you are complicit.
The clip spread faster than a fake Kardashian pregnancy. Within hours, it was trending on Twitter, clogging feeds with headlines like Charlie Kirk ends daytime delusion and Sunny Hostin hit with a reality brick. Subreddits lit up, comment sections detonated, and reaction channels circled the moment like vultures at an all-you-can-eat outrage buffet. Suddenly, The View, usually a safe haven of scripted liberal comfort, looked more like a cruise ship caught in a hurricane. Everything shook, the energy dipped, and Sunny Hostin, the polished pundit with a law degree and a reputation for poise, began to visibly short-circuit. She wasn't screaming, she wasn't flipping chairs. This wasn't Real Housewives. What unfolded was far harsher. The collapse of composure, the nervous fidgeting, the forced smiles, the cracks in that carefully cultivated gravitas all gave her away. You could almost hear her inner panic. Am I being ratioed on live TV? Meanwhile, Charlie Kirk, filming from the comfort of his own stage, was already uncorking digital champagne. This was never about facts or fairness. It was about raw dominance. And if humiliation needed a face, that viral clip was it. Sunny had unwillingly become its poster child. Because here's the brutal truth. Kirk didn't just target her talking points. He went after the entire ecosystem she represents. Educated, polished, media savvy. The kind of presence that's supposed to be unshakable.
And the final point I'll say is this, is Sunny, you guys thought that abortion was going to be this like quasi-zealot religious issue? I'm pro-life. If people in the audience aren't, that's fine. What I'm saying though, what gives me promise, and I think we can all agree on this, is that there are other issues that should animate and drive our politics other than this very divisive one. And I was really encouraged by that, Megan. Very encouraged, because the media was forcing this as an up or down vote on a referendum on a highly complicated, very emotional, very personal issue. And it turned out the American people were like, yeah, actually, these other 6 things matter more. And good for them.
And that's exactly why he did it. It's a classic Kirk maneuver. Treat public figures like Twitter handles, strip away the nuance, and roast them over the open flame of meme culture. He didn't need to be correct. He just had to be louder, flashier, and 2 steps ahead in the digital battlefield. And in that moment, he was. While Sunny was still clinging to her polished weekend brunch talking points, Kirk had already unleashed 6 viral edits, a flood of reaction GIFs, and even a merch drop. Sunny's collapse wasn't just about losing an argument. It was about being steamrolled by a freight train of performative outrage. She thought she was steering a daytime talk show through a passing drizzle, only to realize Charlie had summoned a full-blown media hurricane. Now, The View's producers are no strangers to controversy. They've endured walk-offs, awkward interviews, and therapy session-style hot topics. But this was different. This wasn't a debate. They never even reached stage 1. What happened was a narrative siege, an uninvited cyber invasion, and the cameras, those merciless truth tellers, captured every detail. The subtle shift in her posture, the nervous glances at the teleprompter as if it held the universe's answers, and the voice that usually rang crisp and commanding starting to tremble like a Jenga tower on its final breath.
Welcome back. You know, in Monday's conversation about Turning Point USA, I put the young people at the conference in the same category as the protesters outside. And I don't like it when people make assumptions about me, and it's not any better when I make assumptions about other people, which I did. So, my bad. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So,
Online, the wolves were already howling. Reaction videos from Kirk's orbit spliced Sunny's discomfort into endless loops. Conservative blogs declared it a cultural triumph, and even Gen Z TikTokers joined in, remixing her facial expressions into dance memes with the frenzy of digital piranhas. Meanwhile, Charlie Kirk stood there glowing like a smug lighthouse in a storm. His followers hailed it as the definitive moment when traditional media cracked under the weight of new age commentary. And truthfully, they weren't entirely wrong. Because Kirk understands something crucial. He thrives on it. In today's post-fact world of content-driven politics, it's never about logic. It's about optics. Who looks in control? Who sparks the loudest reaction? Who pairs it with the catchiest soundtrack? Sunny, sadly, never had a chance. The moment that video hit the feed, the algorithms picked a side, and it wasn't hers. This wasn't a battle of ideas. It was a meme war, and she brought a footnote to a flamethrower fight, and the artistry of Kirk's Kirk's approach can't be denied. As the self-proclaimed master of smug insurgency, he crafted a package so potent it didn't need rebuttal, it needed quarantine. This wasn't commentary, it was tactical media warfare, wrapped in 1080p and dripping with sanctimony.
Yeah, they have nothing else to talk about. Maybe you should get the lawyer that worked on that Covington Catholic school case. What was that, a $200 million settlement? I think, Charlie, you could use the money, and your students definitely could too.
And it hit Sonny's carefully curated image like a drone strike. For years, she cultivated a persona of intellectual clarity and moral certainty, but none of that mattered once the internet crowned her the week's piñata. It wasn't even about her argument being wrong. The damage came from the spectacle itself, which made her look unprepared, rattled, and painfully human. And on television today, looking human might as well be a career death wish. Charlie Kirk didn't win because he was more insightful. He won because he was unapologetically brutal, and the internet has an endless appetite for blood. Daytime TV, once considered safe, scripted, moderated, and perfectly lit, has become just another battlefield. And Sunny Hostin stepped onto it as if she were serving afternoon tea. No rebuttal, no defense, only the slow unraveling under the crushing weight of digital perception. One viral moment was all it took to turn her composure into a case study on the psychological toll of uninvited digital warfare. And truthfully, it was cinematic. The arc had every ingredient: an unexpected strike, a gradual descent into visible distress, and the haunting realization that the cameras were still rolling. The tragedy is that she genuinely tried to hold it together.
Look at your achievements. How do you like the so-called uneducated now, Sonny?
Yeah, and again, by the way, rarely do you get the answer to a question in the question. And her whole question is exactly why there was a rebellion against them.
Yes.
Listen, just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. I always differentiate between knowledge and wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever they teach. I mean, it's or about North African lesbian poetry. Okay, that's fine, I guess.
When your public image becomes a punchline, there's no graceful way to recover in real time. Meanwhile, Kirk's victory lap wasn't a walk. It was a TikTok marathon. Recap clips, Instagram reels, smug screenshots, all flooding the feeds. And the media, they did what they always do, picked a side based on clicks. Suddenly, Sunny Hostin's every blink, every pause, every strained smile became headline material. Entire op-eds dissected the way she blinked too fast on camera. This wasn't journalism. This was cannibalism dressed up as commentary. And here's the cruel twist. Charlie Kirk never even showed up. He humiliated her from a different building, maybe even a different zip code, armed with nothing but sheer online willpower. That clip became a siren, a wake-up call blasting louder than a Florida man trying to argue with a hurricane. Sunny Hostin's unraveling wasn't just one woman's bad day. It was the sound of an entire media strategy collapsing under TikTok sarcasm, Twitter trolls, and Gen Z's Olympic-level eye-rolling. The truth is, she came armed with the Constitution, while the other side showed up with a flamethrower and a GIF library. She tried law school logic. Kirk unleashed meme warfare, and the internet devoured every last bite.
Now we begin with a shocking apology just a short time ago from the ladies of The View to Turning Point USA. A war of words broke out after the conservative group was rallying the next generation of voters at its youth summit in Tampa, Florida this weekend. And the liberal panel just couldn't help themselves. The group sent a scathing cease and desist letter after hosts on The View suggested that Turning Point had embraced neo-Nazis who showed up outside the event.
For years, liberal media clung to the belief that truth would always prevail. The idea was simple: stack enough research, add a dash of legal analysis, deliver it with a calm voice and a prestigious degree, and audiences would nod thoughtfully over their chamomile tea. Spoiler alert, they won't. Not in 2025, not when viewers scroll past detailed policy breakdowns in favor of clips titled "Liberal Melts Down After Getting Destroyed by Common Sense," complete with all caps and 5 exclamation points. The rules of engagement have shifted. Audiences don't crave nuance. They crave the political version of WWE. Body slams, trash talk, and metaphorical folding chairs flying across the ideological ring. Debate was once about crafting the strongest argument. Now it's about who can manufacture the most viral moment. If your opponent can reduce you to a 10-second meme with sad violin music, you've already lost. Airtight constitutional arguments don't stand a chance. Charlie Kirk didn't roll in with a dossier. He arrived with a digital wrecking ball. And the most brutal part? He didn't even need to be in the room. He detonated the entire segment remotely, like a boxer winning a match by drone strike. Meanwhile, Sunny Hostin was left in the wreckage of her own credibility, blinking like someone who just discovered that a polished resume offers no protection against meme warfare.
Over the weekend, Turning Point USA hosted a riveting event in Tampa, Florida called the Student Action Summit. Outside of the event were individuals waving flags and engaged in other activities. Well, on Monday's show, members of The View made a few comments about it.
The conservative group Turning Point USA has condemned the group of neo and said they have nothing to do with the organization.
Yeah, but where was DeSantis is what I want to know.
But you let them in.
President, open your
You let them in and you knew what they were.
Right.
So you are complicit.
And here's the kicker. Liberal media still has no idea how to fight back. They're stuck in the 2010s, sipping lattes and clinging to the hope that reason will eventually win. But this isn't a courtroom. It's a circus. And if you show up armed with facts and decorum while your opponent arrives juggling fire and screaming into a megaphone, there's no question who the crowd will watch. Sunny Hostin's image took a harder hit than a politician's approval rating after a hot mic leak. And not because she was wrong. This was never about facts. It was about optics. She looked rattled. She looked cornered. And in today's media landscape, looking defeated is worse than being defeated. The internet doesn't run on justice. It runs on perception. And perception declared she was steamrolled by a man who probably rehearses his takedowns in front of a mirror next to his protein powder. The damage is permanent, at least online. That broadcast clip has mutated into an entire ecosystem. TikTok edits, YouTube breakdowns, Instagram reels plastered with exaggerated emojis, and reaction videos from influencers who think Karl Marx is a dance trend. It's been remixed more times than a Drake single. Hostin's poise shattered into 1,000 algorithm-friendly fragments, each one being shared, stitched, and monetized by people who wouldn't recognize due process if it served them papers.
Monday, we talked about the fact that there were openly neo demonstrators outside the Florida Student Action Summit of the Turning Point USA group. We want to make clear that these demonstrators were gathered outside the event and that they were not invited or endorsed by Turning Point USA. A Turning Point USA spokesman said the group, quote, 100% condemns those ideologies, and said Turning Point USA security tried to remove the neo-Nazis from the area but could not because they were on public property. Also, Turning Point USA wanted us to clarify that this was a Turning Point USA summit and not a Republican Party event. So we apologize for anything we said that may have been unclear on these points.
Image is currency, and when a media figure flinches, the vultures don't just circle, they live stream it. Sunny Hostin might regain some ground with traditional audiences, sure, but in the digital gladiator arena, composure alone won't save her. She needs an entirely new strategy, one that doesn't assume people tune in for justice, but accepts that they're here for blood, popcorn, and whatever goes viral before lunchtime. Her breakdown wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It wasn't even performative. It was worse. It was real. And if you're not ready to step into the circus, tough luck. The circus will find you anyway. So here lies Sunny Hostin's media reputation. Slightly singed, endlessly memed. A once untouchable voice now reduced to an infinite loop of blinking eyes, replayed across the very platform she underestimated. Charlie Kirk. He's already moved on, grinning from his digital throne, zeroing in on the next target. And Sunny, she'll probably recover, but the internet never forgets.